I trusted the rain bonus more than my instincts. Last delivery of the night. Empty streets. Street lamps flickering like they were half alive. I pulled up to the address. Just a sagging porch with a dying light. Dropped the food bag. Snapped the proof photo. Texted, order delivered. The rain was falling in needles, biting my face as I jogged back to the car. I shut the door, breathed out, and started the engine. 2 blocks later, my phone buzzed. The message stopped my breath. Canceled hours ago. That's not my address. Who's at my door? I stared at the screen. The text sat there, glowing. Cold washed through me, because I'd just been on that porch. That's when the smell hit. Not food. Not rain, rotten water, like pond scum stirred with rust. It rose from behind me, thick enough to taste. My hand slid to the rearview mirror, and for half a second, I thought the back seat was empty. Then the shadow moved, something darker than the upholstery, unbending itself. Water dripped down its hood, silver trails glistening in the dash light. I couldn't see a face, just the shape. Leaning forward, the air felt heavier, like it bent between us. I didn't brake. I didn't speak. I just gripped the wheel and aimed straight for the only place still awake at this hour. The gas station glowing white through the storm. I didn't stop. Didn't even look back again. The rain hammered the windshield, the wipers screaming across the glass. That smell was still rising. Wet leaves, rust, ditch water, like it had been trapped in lungs too long. I locked my eyes on the gas station sign. White neon crown, a safe island in the storm. My pulse rattled in my ears, hands stiff on the wheel. Every instinct told me, don't slam the brakes. Don't let it know you've seen it. When the tires hit the lot, I cut across the pavement too fast, threw on the hazards. Before the engine even dropped, I flung the door wide. I didn't look back. I ran. Someone's in my car. The words ripped out of me as I burst inside the station. The cashier blinked, like he didn't believe me at first. Then his face hardened. He grabbed the phone. A man in a yellow raincoat, must have been a customer, took a flashlight and stepped outside. He angled the beam through my open door. Rain glittered on the seats. So did 4 muddy streaks. Dragged down the driver's seat, finger wide, fresh, ending right where my shoulder blades usually rest. The man didn't move closer, didn't need to, because whatever made those marks hadn't left through the door. It had leaned over me. We watched my car from inside the glass doors, like it was alive, like it might breathe. The dome light glowed on the empty seats, rain tapping the roof, steady, patient, the smell still leaking out, stale water and metal. The man with the flashlight shook his head, didn't go closer, didn't need to. The cops arrived slow, tires hissing across the lot, 2 officers, heavy coats, radios crackling. They moved like it was routine. Stay inside, that's all they said. One killed the engine. Another swept the trunk, then slid a mirror under the chassis. Doors open, hood checked. Nothing, but the smell clung to the air. It wasn't leaving. The taller cop leaned into the back seat, clicked his light across the mats, and froze. He reached in, lifted something out. Black, stringy, wet leaves. Not from a gutter, not from a yard, from the kind that rot at the bottom of ditch water. He looked at me, didn't smile. Didn't joke, just dropped them into an evidence bag. The other officer muttered into his radio, words I'll never forget. Possible concealment. Send backup. I stared at my car and realized whatever had been with me, it didn't just vanish. It had slipped back into the rain. Back home, the storm still beat against the windows, but it was quieter now. Too quiet. I left the car, parked at the curb. Didn't even want to touch the handle. My hands shook when I locked the door behind me. Hours later, I went back with a flashlight. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. The seats were dry. The mats clean, no smell, but under the driver's seat, my light caught something. A thin plastic tie, one end cut sharp, like it had been sliced in a hurry. The other end frayed, stretched. It hadn't been there before. I knew my car. Maybe it had been wrapped around something or someone. I shut the door hard, too hard, stood there in the rain, my own reflection staring back through the glass. When I checked the delivery app, the log made no sense. The order showed as placed, canceled, edited, Timestamps scrambled. The address field glitched, blurred letters swimming like static. Then the screen flashed a message. Refund issued. To the customer, I didn't finish the night. I didn't even sleep. All I did was sit at the table, dripping onto the floor, staring at that plastic tie and thinking, if it had been cut, what was it holding together before I drove away? I didn't quit driving, couldn't afford to, but I never drove the same again. Every night now, before I turn the key, I check the back seat. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Same little flashlight, same ritual, because if I don't, my chest locks up like I can't breathe. That smell still lingers in memory. Ditch water, rust, wet earth, and sometimes, when it rains hard, I swear I catch it again, even with the windows up. My friends laugh when I tell them, paranoid, just water damage. They don't see the cut plastic tie. They don't see the muddy streaks. They didn't read the glitching app logs. I did, and I can't shake the truth. Whoever, or whatever, was in my car wasn't a prankster, wasn't a squatter. It leaned over me, close enough to touch, close enough to breathe in my ear, and it wanted to go somewhere. Now, even on clear nights, I drive like prey, doors locked, eyes flicking between mirrors, windows sealed tight, because maybe it wasn't after food, maybe it wasn't after money, maybe it was only ever after the driver. A week later, my phone buzzed with a notification. Unknown number, no message, just an image file, a Ring camera still. The porch wasn't mine. The timestamp read 3:12 a.m., and under the porch light stood a figure in a hood, rain varnishing the fabric, head tilted just enough to suggest hair plastered flat. No face, no caption, just waiting. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, until my own reflection replaced the picture. Now when rain needles the windshield, I don't start the engine right away. I sit there. I breathe through my nose. If the air smells like a creek, like water that's been sitting too long in the dark, I don't drive. I get out, and I leave the car behind. Thunder rattled the cupboards. Rain punched the glass. Then, knocking, fast, frantic, right at my door, I pressed my eye to the peephole. It was Mrs. Hargrove, my neighbor from across the hall. Gray hair pasted to her cheeks, coat dripping like she'd swum here. "Eva, please, dear, the power's out." Her voice trembled. Her hands shook against the frame. I unchained the lock. I let her in. She sat on my couch, water pooling at her shoes. I wrapped a towel around her shoulders. She smiled. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. The building manager's voice was tight. "Eva, paramedics just took Mrs. Hargrove to the hospital. She collapsed in the lobby 2 hours ago." My eyes slid to the woman on my couch. Her smile didn't move, but her eyes did. And that's when I realized the storm had let someone in. But it wasn't my neighbor. Up close, everything I'd missed started clicking. Her hands, too steady. Mrs. Hargrove's hands always shook like a leaf in wind. Her coat, the collar stitched with initials, not hers. And the hair, a wig line, nudged crooked where the rain had peeled it back. She stood up, drifted through my living room like she'd been here before. Her eyes scanned the hall, each door, each turn. Not curious, familiar. "Mind if I stay until the storm passes?" Her voice was different now. No quiver, no age. Flat, practical, predatory. I slid my hand to the coffee table, trying to palm my phone. Her eyes caught the movement. The smile dropped like a mask falling off. For one heartbeat, the room felt too small. Her presence filled every corner. The storm outside was nothing compared to what stood inside, and I knew this wasn't about weather. It was about her being in here with me. I bolted straight for my daughter's room, but she was faster. Iron fingers clamped my forearm, too strong for an old woman. Her grip burned cold. Shh! Her lips stretched into something that wasn't a smile. "Don't wake the little one." I twisted, pulled, nothing. Her nails dug in deeper, so I bit her hard. Copper filled my mouth. She hissed, low, animal, and I ripped free. Heina's door was half open. She was under the bed, little heels scraping the floor, trying to make herself disappear. I shoved the dresser across the doorway. My hands slipped on the wood, heart slamming. The knob twitched once, twice, then her voice slid through the crack. Sweet, calm, wrong. "Eva, it's just weather." The knob stilled, and the silence that followed was worse than the knocking. breathing, so deep I could hear my own blood in my ears, so deep I swore I heard the building breathe. Blue light smeared across the blinds, sirens swallowing the storm. I yanked the dresser back, dragged Heine into my arms, and opened the door to two officers dripping rain. "Stay here," one said, guns low, eyes sharp. They swept my apartment, then the hall, then across the way. Mrs. Hargrove's door hung crooked, lock splintered clean through. The chain snapped. Inside, empty. Her flowers knocked to the floor, her coat gone. One officer called it in. The other scrolled the building's camera feed, and there she was. Thin woman in a soaked coat, knocking door to door, never looking straight at the lens, face always angled, just out of frame. "Known to us," the officer muttered. "Targets seniors during storms, disguises, fake names." He closed the laptop, but my eyes slid back to my couch. The towel she'd used was still there, perfectly folded, edges lined up neat, like she'd left a signature, like she planned to come back for it. We spent a week at my sister's, safe, crowded, too many locks to count. When we came home, the building looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. I bought a camera, a wider peephole, 2 new locks, and a chain I actually use now. The hall bulbs got replaced, the windows patched. Even the draft that used to hum at night was gone. But safety isn't in the walls, it's in the rituals. Hina knew that before I did. She drew a picture the next morning, a figure in a long coat, no face, stick hands too long. Across the top, in crooked letters, "The Fake Neighbor." She taped it to her bedroom door like a warning sign. I asked her why. She just shrugged, and then she said something that froze me. Now she knows she's not welcome. Now, when storms roll through, I don't open the door for anyone. Not until I verify. Not until I know who's really on the other side. Real people can wait. Imposters don't deserve a chance. Compassion doesn't mean blind trust. It means boundaries. Mrs. Hargrove came back weeks later, alive, recovered. She waters her flowers again. She smiles at me in the hall. Sometimes I bring her tea, but only after I call first. When thunder shakes the roof, I count my locks like rosary beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I remind myself the storm doesn't scare me. It's who might be knocking during it that keeps me awake. Near midnight, my dog pulled me toward the park by the creek. Rain fell in silver strings. The streets were empty. The swings stood black against the sky. 4 seats, still as stone, except one. It moved, back and forth, slow, rhythmic. Then another joined it. Then all 4. Perfect sync, no wind. No one there. Max froze at my side, fur bristling. His whine cut through the storm. I raised my flashlight, and that's when I saw it. A child. Small frame, raincoat glowing yellow under the beam. Sitting dead center, feet dangling above the mulch. I stepped closer, and the hood tilted up. Not a child. Porcelain, a doll, life-sized, painted eyes staring bright blue. Rain beaded down its cheeks like tears. And behind me, somewhere in the trees, came the sound of laughter. The doll's eyes caught the light, bright, painted, unblinking. Rain dripped down the lashes, too real, too human. Max's body went rigid, hackles raised. Then he tried to back out of his collar, clawing at the lash to get away. That's when the laughter came again. Not one voice, not close. A chorus, children's giggles, threaded through the trees, high and low at once, near and far, like the storm was carrying them on the wind. I spun the flashlight beam across the park. Empty slides, empty benches. Nothing moved except the swings, but the sound grew thicker, braided through the rain, pulling closer. I didn't wait. I turned, dragged Max with me, half running through the wet gravel. By the time I hit the sidewalk, my pulse drowned out the storm. At home, I slammed the door, double-locked it, and told myself the same lie on repeat. Fishing line, teen pranks, something I just didn't see. But Max curled in the corner, ears flat, shaking, and wouldn't move. For an hour. Morning made it all look harmless. The park glowed like a postcard. No swings in motion, no doll. Just moms with strollers, kids on scooters, and the creek glittering under the sun. I almost laughed at myself. Almost, but at lunch I told my buddy Tom, half joking, half testing. He didn't laugh. He just set down his sandwich. "You don't know the story?" he asked. I shook my head. Flood hit years ago. Flash rain. Creek swelled overnight. 8-year-old got pulled under. Bank collapsed before anyone could reach him. I felt the weight of his words in my chest. People say he never stopped playing. Tom added, swing chains move on their own. Laughter in the trees. It's a thing I forced a grin. Called it gossip. Wind and grief. Physics needs a push. But the truth was, I hadn't felt wind that night, and laughter doesn't travel in a chorus when the only mouths are shadows. I told myself I wouldn't go back, but curiosity always wins. Dusk settled over the park. Sky gray, clouds bleeding rain. I carried my phone like a weapon, camera rolling. The mulch crunched under my shoes. Max wouldn't come this time. I didn't blame him. The first creak came before the storm did. Metal chains whispering in rhythm. Creak, creak, creak. The swings began to move. Not random, not swaying. Perfect sync, like gears in a clock. 4 seats rising together, falling together, cutting the air with measured precision. My breath fogged the lens. I tried to hold steady, but my hands shook. Then came the sound. Giggles. Soft at first, then threading through the branches like threads pulled tight. I caught the motion on video, but not the cold that sank into my teeth, not the weight pressing the air around me. Back home, I replayed it again and again. Pixels blurred, shadows bled into static. The screen looked like water, like something moving just beneath the surface. The warning hit our phones 2 nights later. Flash flooding. Stay inside. But Max still needed out. So I clipped the leash and prayed for quick. The creek roared like it was alive. Water boiling under the footbridge. Mud tearing down the banks. And the swings, they weren't calm anymore. They pitched higher than any parent would allow. Chains screaming with each arc. That's when I saw it. The doll. Back on the middle swing. Yellow hood pulled low. Shoes hovering inches above the mulch. Rain hammered down, but it sat untouched, like the storm was bending around it. Then the laughter changed, no longer scattered, no longer playful. A single whisper, clear, coaxing. Come play with me. Max hit the ground, belly flat. Claws scraped the pavement as he tried to drag me home. I didn't argue, didn't look back, didn't breathe. Until the door slammed shut behind us. I don't cut through the park anymore. Not in daylight, not in storms. My daughter rolls her eyes when I tell her, calls me dramatic. Maybe I am, but places remember, and some games never end. When I pass the creek now, I keep my head down. I don't look at the swings. I don't listen for laughter, because I know what waits there. What calls out in the rain. And if you ever see a swing moving in perfect rhythm on a night with no wind, don't be curious, don't be brave, turn around, go home. Let whatever's still playing play without you.